Hi everyone, my name is Junon. I have a health science background and I'm the author of the book Truth and Empathy, How to Find Your Soulmate. And I'll put a link to the book below. This video is the romantic compatibility between the INFJ and the INFP. There is some confusion when it comes to who is the best romantic match for another based on their personality type. And some advocate that like attract like, others that opposites attract. From my point of view, I believe that birds of the same feather flock together. So let's first start with their areas of compatibility. So obviously they're both intuitive feelers, so they are right brain dominant, and the theme of their lives is spirituality and meaning. So these are people who want to dive deeper into the subtle aspects of life. So they'll be interested in obviously spiritual matters. It talks about healing, talks about all types of sort of aspect that has to do with the metaphysics. So they will have interesting conversations together, and also they tend to be affectionate because they are right brain dominant. These are people who are focused on their relationships, so it is very much the core of who they are. As intuitive feelers, they are very monogamous, so when they decide to be with a partner, they want it to be long term. So flings are not something they find interesting or appealing. Both the INFJ and the INFT are the soulmate type of romantic partners, so they are looking for a mate who is physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually compatible with them, just like with the other intuitive feelers. So for them, it is very important to have that deep connection with their mate. Since the INFJ and the INFP are both introverts and intuitive feelers, they need even more time alone to recharge after they spend time with others. And what is interesting is that when you compare the INFJ with the INFJ, because its energy is the highest, they probably need even more time than the INFT to recharge. And the other point when it comes to how they interact is that most likely they're the type of people who enjoy taking their time, so they don't like to rush compared to, let's say, a sense of perceiver, a sense of judger. So they like to take their time when it comes to their relationship. And also, being a feminine energy, they have a good eye for aesthetics. So you'll see that the INFP has a really great sense of style. They're the type of person who will want to have handmade clothes. They like to have that unique piece. And if you look at their functions, that is that introverted feeling is their first function. So when it comes to how they want to be perceived, they want to be perceived as unique. So that will affect in how they dress. So you'll see that the INFJ tends to be more practical in terms of how they dress. So it's more of a sort of a classic look, whereas the INFP is more like a bohemian, new age look that they will have. The other point when it comes to what would bind them is that they're the type of people who like to talk about relationships. So their subject of conversation will be sort of similar, will overlap. Now, when it comes to the challenges that we'll meet, is that the first thing has to do with their organizational style. So interesting enough is that the INFJ is the feminine orderly type, whereas the INFP is the feminine spontaneous type. So the INFJ will feel that they won't be able to rely on the INFP because the INFJ will change things at the last minute, is not really reliable, reachable, and that will be something that the INFJ will find difficult. The INFP has introverted feeling as their first function. So this is their ultimate goal in their life. So they want to be very authentic. So their decisions are based on their own ethics and own morals, and they're not really that concerned about how it impacts others. By contrast, the INFJ has extroverted feeling as its second function. So they're very concerned about how their behavior or their thoughts or beliefs will affect their environment. And that could be an area of discord. So the INFJ will look at the INFP and think that they are self-absorbed and selfish, whereas the INFP will look at the INFJ and say, well, you're too concerned about what others will think or how it impacts others. So in other words, the INFP wants to be authentic, whereas the INFJ wants to connect with others, but also wants the absolute truth. So because introvert intuition is that first function, and also they are concerned about how this impacts people around them and also what's going to happen many years down the road. Is that the INFP will look at the INFJ and think that they are too logical. So they might have issues when they're having a debate. The INFJ will say, well, look at the facts. And the INFP will say, well, you are being too rigid. It has to do with how you feel. And that actually is logical in the sense that if you look at their functions, that is that extroverted thinking is the fourth function of the INFP, which means that in terms of their conscious function, it's their weakest. So they're not really good when it comes to looking at things through a logical lens. And they're also the type of people who might not really understand math and science that well, whereas the INFJ has introverted thinking as its third function. So when they look at a situation, it has to sort of satisfy both their right brain, so in terms of being empathic, but also it has to be logical, which is different from the INFP. So that may be an area of conflict. So again, when it comes to these personality types, it's good to actually dive a bit deeper. And if we look at the compatibility between the INFJ and the INFP, is that they have areas that they overlap, being both obviously intuitive feelers, both introverts, both have spirituality and meaning as the theme of their lives. However, when it comes to the areas of organizational style, there might be conflict because the INFJ likes very reliable, reachable people, whereas the INFP does things when they feel like it, because their ultimate goal is authenticity, because they have introvert feeling as their first function. The other point as well is that one is a lot more logical than the other. So when they have, let's say, an issue, they might not agree as to what to do because the INFP wants something that has to do with more with their own morals and values, whereas the INFJ is looking for optimal truth because intuition is their first function, and also they rely quite a bit on logic as well. So in other words, they might get along in certain areas, but long term there might be some conflict when the INFJ and the INFP try to make it work. So let me know if you agree or disagree with this assessment by commenting below. If you learned something, if you enjoyed this video, please click on the like button, subscribe to my channel, and we will talk soon.